Hello, I'm Arik Korman, Communications Director at League of Education Voters and the parent of a sixth grade son in the public school system who needs special education services. In case you're not familiar with us, League of Education Voters is a statewide nonprofit working with families, educators, and leaders to build a brighter future for every Washington student. Our website is educationvoters.org. We believe that education is a tool for justice. One of the systems that perpetrate racial injustice experienced by communities of color is our schools. We believe every child deserves an excellent public education that provides an equal opportunity for success. In order to achieve this, we must pursue radical change in our school systems for equity, justice, and liberation. We must build schools and systems that honor the humanity in every student. Welcome to our free online webinar series, Lunchtime LEVinars. We started this series 7 years ago to share information and build knowledge on important and timely issues. Today's LEVinar is about what to expect in the Washington State legislative session in 2021. During the 2021 legislative session, we must focus on community-driven solutions to support students and families who have been historically and systemically underserved, including students of color, students in poverty, students qualifying for special education services, students learning English, students experiencing homelessness, and students impacted by trauma. We must ensure that in this moment of crisis and opportunity, we create meaningful and lasting change. Our speakers today are League of Education Voters Director of Policy and Research, Jacob Vela, and Government Relations Consultant, Carey Morris. They will give an overview of the 2021 legislative landscape, outline the possibilities in 2021 around sufficient and effective resources for every student receiving special education services, supportive and safe learning environments for every student in K-12 schools, equitable levy and local effort assistance structures targeted to student needs, and high quality early learning and childhood education for every early learner, and answer your questions. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. You'll notice a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. This is a space for you to submit questions to us. As always, feel free to send any feedback about the webinar quality to us on the chat function or at info@educationvoters.org. And speaking of the chat function, you're welcome to use it to check in and comment on anything you hear. Jacob Vela's strong desire to get involved in the civic process led him to work in the election cycle in Nevada. That adventure compelled him to work as a legislative assistant in the Nevada legislature, where he focused on civic engagement and electoral issues. The strong civic culture and beautiful scenery of the Great Northwest managed to lure him away from Nevada. After settling in Seattle, Jacob attended the Evans School of Public Affairs at the University of Washington. Prior to joining League of Education Voters, Jacob worked with local nonprofits in strategic planning and working to develop policies to improve the quality of life of formerly homeless individuals in downtown Seattle. Jacob received his BA in political science and Spanish from the University of Nevada. He earned his Master's of Public Administration from the Evans School of Public Affairs with a focus on policy analysis and urban policy. When not in the office, he can be found wandering in the Cascades, enjoying Tacoma's parks, or honing his skills as a woodworker. He also enjoys introducing his 1-year-old daughter to the happiness of being outdoors. Carey Morris began lobbying state and local government entities in 1999. Prior to this, Carey was the legislative assistant to State Senator Georgia Gardner, worked on numerous political campaigns, and served as an advisor coordinator for the Voter Power Project in Northwest Washington, a Get Out the Vote campaign for women involved in the domestic violence community. She's worked with clients ranging from local government entities to grassroots advocacy groups. Carey maintains strong, effectual relationships with clients and public officials by providing accurate research and a commitment to creating strong public policy. She also works to maintain strong, effectual relationships with her 2 sons as they navigate life together during the pandemic and caring for their small hobby farm outside of Bellingham. Welcome, Jacob and Carey. Thank you so much for joining us today. So what can we expect in the 2021 legislative session?
You know, it's interesting, Arik, because I've I thought about that. Is there something you can say you could expect? And I think you can expect that we're going to have to adapt quite a bit and be patient during this process. We're going into a long session. That's by Constitution, we're down there for 105 days. But also by Constitution, the only thing we actually have to do is the operating budget for the next biennium, the next 2 years. So we're all virtual. They're going to be swearing in members virtually tomorrow, and that the new members and city members. And then by Monday, there will be the rules change. So both the Senate and House have different rules on how those chambers operate. And the members will have to actually take a rule vote to go virtual. And that will be happening on Monday. And as we know, we're all still reeling from what we saw occur on a federal level yesterday. We are also hearing there will be people in Olympia wanting to occupy our buildings, they would like us to be in person. So as they are trying to abide by the public health guidelines to do this virtual vote, this in-person vote to go virtual, you'll also see the members having to deal with that additional burden and fear tactic. So they will take that vote, and then the House will be pretty much 100% virtual. The Senate, there'll be more of a hybrid. There will be some members that will be down there, leadership, and also others that have real need to be there. It has been a learning, and we're having to pivot quite a bit on what COVID's been bringing, what we've been facing. First, we felt there would really be a budget crisis, and now it's just the logistics and the gymnastics to run an online session. Everything will be virtual, so all the committee hearings will be virtual, all the testimony. And so there is some pros to this. For individuals who haven't been able to access or come down to Olympia to take part in the process, they can now take part in the process from their homes. They can take part in the process by being able to testify virtually, but also there will be ability to do written testimony, which will then be put into a bill report. So their voices will be heard a little bit more, so they might feel that, because we started doing some virtual, actually the Senate did a few years ago. So there are some pluses there, especially if there's issues that people are so compelled to really contact their legislators. They might have more of ability to have those 15-minute meetings that we have down in Olympia. They can make the appointment and do it in the same way that those of us who walk the marble halls get quite often. They also, this year is also pretty amazing. And this is one of those things, as you get older, you don't feel older till you look in the mirror sometimes and you're wondering who the old person is. I kind of feel older on this one in my career, is that the last election, as vital as it was, there was an amazing wave of women and people of color, BIPOC, that came into our legislature. In fact, the House Democratic Committee is 60% women and 40% BIPOC, people of color. And what's amazing to me about that is I remember in my career, this makes me feel old, Arik Pettigrew, representative from the King County, Seattle area, standing up and being the only member and chair of the Black Caucus. And that wasn't that long ago. So I'm really excited for that change. That also shows the Democrats have both the House, the Senate, and the executive branch. So I think that there will be real conversations that need to happen. There's an emphasis as they're looking at what are they going to focus on, their caucus priorities. Equity is top of the list. And so actually having people of color at the table is so important and exciting. They're going back to what they're focusing on. So the House is put together. They really are limiting the amount of bills they're having members bring forward. They put a limit on 7. Hopefully they'll continue to hold that line, and really focusing it on COVID, equity, including the police accountability and climate change issues. And by COVID response, that's a lot of the human services, healthcare, and education would fall into that. And they're also asking not, usually we do bills in both the Senate and House, but really picking one chamber as they coordinate. I think we'll see it really difficult. My personal opinion is what's going to be lost this session, and what to expect is the magic of the human element that we have in Olympia. That is what draws me to the career. There's something pretty inspiring when you have people listening to others' opinions and different views with all of your senses being in the same room, actually having that those moments of stakeholders to really build really powerful, strong legislation. And I think that's going to be lost. And the people, you know, stakeholdering's hard when we're sitting on Zooms trying to figure out, making sure we got the right people on a Zoom call and their voices are being heard as they're trying to interrupt. It doesn't happen. It doesn't have the same organic kind of sitting around a table. Who else needs to be here? Tell me about your life. Tell me about your experience, what you're bringing to the table, which is how Olympia works, why this process actually, we get such great legislation sometimes out of it. So I could go on for a while, but I'm sure you want me to get more on logistics. So the House and the Senate, they will be hearing, when they come in to do some of the rules changes, another thing they'll be doing is we set our schedule and our calendar on predominantly by legislative history and rule, and the legislature takes a vote on that every year to say this will be our calendar for the session, and they will be changing kind of where it's been historically. We'll be losing about a week of committee work as they're anticipating more need to be on the floor and caucus and staff, and then committee hearings. They're really limiting the bills, as I said, because we're going to need to pivot, going back to my first point, and adapt, because as they're going through the process and the gymnastics of how a bill passes through a committee, the hearing, the executive, and behind the scenes, all on this new virtual Zoom, it's really difficult for that to happen. It's slower process. So they're saying that we might see a third to a half less bills than we've ever seen before. And I've heard from several people that we might see majority of the bills passed be bipartisan in nature, and really small have anything that's controversial or anything that really needs a lot of stakeholdering and work between the two caucuses. Because one of the things that has been really brought to my attention is not only are we going to be lacking the ability to connect with members in the hallway, or when you come down, you have that Colematic committee, those moments that are empowering to be part of the process and can be kind of exciting, is they don't have the same ability to interact with each other. When you watch the floor debate and you see the two senators in the back of the floor from the two different caucuses kind of working over language, that's not going to happen as easily. And to me, that's also going to be a difficult and really slow down the process of what can get done this year.
Yeah, that's what
Sorry,
I was
I could
wondering.
talk about this forever.
No. This is really interesting and historic for that reason. Do you know if there have been any mechanisms set up for relationship building, either for legislators with colleagues or legislators with stakeholders of different kinds and communities?
Well, they'll still do their Zoom meetings. Like, I mean, the 15-minute meetings, they will have those. They're really trying to emphasize on having constituents, those being done by constituents. And there are some members that are kind of doing these hour Zooms where lobbyists or advocates that see more frequently that aren't constituents, they come in and they pick people to do private. I mean, we're all learning. I think public disclosure, even when we're texting with them, that's all public disclosure between them as well. It's just that human element of chit-chatting while you're walking down the hall with your cup of coffee, asking how your kids are doing, and kind of really seeing why people feel a certain way, kind of learning about them, their background, that we don't get in this form. No offense to everybody. And it's also personalities. They're, shy people too that don't feel comfortable talking where they can see themselves, or they don't want to interrupt in a stakeholder meeting, and that's a loss as well.
Yeah. I was wondering if they were going to do something like breakout rooms, where they have 3 or 4 or 5 people who just get to meet in a smaller group, because that's one way of building relationships during this time.
They will, and they are working on that as well, but it's those spontaneous ones that I think that I'm hoping will not be virtual next year. Sorry for the people who are enjoying this and like it. I'm sure there'll be an element that will continue on, but for the new members to miss in the building, getting to know everybody, having constituents come down, it's going to be a loss.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say that. I mean, Yeah. I've seen people who never, and I know it's a burden for some people, like even just the gas to get to Olympia, but people that come down, they care about a bill, their child's in special ed, they want to talk to their member about it, and having that moment where the member gets it and talks to them and remembers them when they see them, or they pull them out of committee, and just, it's important, it empowers them to take more action. And
Yeah.
so just be patient. That's why I said we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to pivot a lot and be patient and just really appreciate staff. So
Yeah. Yeah. And just for clarity, if someone does want to schedule a meeting with a legislator, is it just a matter of contacting the legislator's office and scheduling an appointment with their legislative assistant? Is that how
absolutely.
doing that
Yeah.
would work?
Yeah. And a lot of people are doing it, of course, doing the email. It's easier to do it that way. You can also pick up the phone and call them. Some members are still doing scheduling over the phone, so you can do it that way. And if you're not comfortable with Zoom, there are members who I just said to somebody, I can do a call with you instead of a Zoom. And they're like, oh, bless you. Thank you. I'll call you as I'm driving, or I'll call you when I'm on my morning walk, because they too are sitting in front of computers quite often. And another thing that's going to be difficult during the hearings, and you can watch them on TVW, or you can watch them on the leg.wa.gov if you go to the committees, and they'll have the link for it, is that so often when you're watching a committee hearing, you get to see, even if it's just on TVW, who's interacting, who's talking, who's really listening, who might be asking the questions, and who's left the room. That's always interesting. We won't be able to see that. And they don't know, so you won't know which members. They'll do a kind of a round introduction, but you also won't be able to see your member all the time. If they're going to stay there, they just turn their camera off, and there'll be less kind of, the interesting part, at least to me, because I'm a political nerd, is to watch who's talking to who's reacting to what they're hearing, who's making that connection during a committee hearing with the information being passed.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. How has the state budget impacted, or will it impact, this upcoming session? Because I know that we're impacted greatly by COVID.
Yes, and there's quite a bit of, as we've been talking throughout the interim, we expected to really be where we were in 2008, going into the Great Recession, having to make some deep cuts in some vital programs. And so throughout the interim, we were having conversations, interim being the summer months, of what programs we were really focusing on, the role, and looking at revenue and having conversations about revenue and what type of revenue, and progressive, to really look at our tax structure, and would we need bridge funding. All these conversations were happening, and lo and behold, we get to November and we're okay. We're not okay. We'd always like to see a little bit more, but it wasn't this deep, dark hole that was anticipated. The governor's proposal that he put out in December, he does build in new revenue. He spent about $3 billion more than actually we had the funding for. And then the outlook, we do our budgets for 4 years. So even though we write them for 2, there's a 4-year outlook. And that's where it kind of gets a little bit more murky, but he actually built in some revenue because he wanted to expand some programs. And that keeps the revenue conversation on the table, because we keep bringing it up again, the capital gains and other areas, to make Washington State a more progressive revenue state, rather than I think we're 50th right now because of how we do it within the sales tax. So the budget, we come in on for 105 days. By Constitution, the only thing we have to do in Olympia is pass an operating budget. In March, we'll get the newest numbers, revenue forecast, to see where we're at. And we will build it based on that. But what we're looking at now is not having to make those deep cuts we anticipated going over the summer, which is so nice, because those are some bleak conversations. And for those of us who remember 2008, and we're still recovering from the cuts that programs took in 2008, it was a relief to see those November numbers.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. In a moment, we're going to pivot to our priorities as League of Education voters for the upcoming session. But I also want to let you know that if you have a question about the upcoming session, feel free to put it in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And now I'd like to move to Jacob. Jacob Vela is our Director of Policy and Research here at LEV. Jacob, what are we going to be working on in 2021?
Thank you, Arik. I will start sharing that right now. So I'll be going over our legislative priorities as the League of Education voters for this upcoming session. And then if folks have questions through the Q&A function, as Arik mentioned, we can get to some of those questions after I finish up. So the first area is around high quality early learning. As the current COVID crisis has kind of reaffirmed and brought it up to the forefront, access to high quality early learning is critical for families and communities across the state, both from an early learner perspective, but also from a family perspective. So it's one of the priorities is around the preservation and expansion of those high quality early learning opportunities, especially for folks from low-income families. Our second priority area is the supportive and safe and accessible learning environments for students in K-12 schools. Our first priority area is around the multi-tiered system of supports, otherwise known as MTSS. So this is around encouraging and enabling districts to adopt and implement these approaches to supporting students. MTSS frameworks both identify student needs, but also identify and support student needs, but also it's academic as well as social emotional to try to address the full range of student need at both the targeted level, but also at school-wide level. So we're trying to create the frameworks and the parts of the system to enable districts to better develop and implement these districts to better support students across the state. Another
Can
area.
I jump in there really quick? Just one quick thing on this. One of the things we're also focused on is making sure there's a lot we're hearing about getting our kids back into school and the pros of that. And there's that public health kind of debate occurring. We have been really focusing to making sure investments are being made in this area, because you can get kids back in the classroom, but if you're not working with teachers and support staff and kids to deal with any of the trauma they've dealt with over this pandemic, they're not gonna be ready to learn. So a large investment's gonna have to be made, not just, and it's gonna be ongoing. It just can't be an upfront one time. It's an ongoing training and really working with both the teachers and students in this area. Sorry, I just, editorial comments, it's what I do, sorry.
Thank you, and that's a recurring theme that we'll be bringing up during the course of this discussion. Another area is around the universal design for learning. I think one of the things that has come to kind of into focus for this remote learning environment that we're currently in is learners have different preferences for how they learn and how they experience their education. And I think that's come into greater focus because of the remote learning and how students have fared in that setting. So one of our priorities is around supporting educators, districts, and schools as they adopt and implement UDL approaches and other inclusive practices to make sure the learning environment meets the learning needs of all learners, both from whether it's students with disabilities, students gaining English proficiency, it's students that have just other preferences for how they intake and retain information. So accommodating the diverse range of student learning needs through more training, more technical assistance, and more support for districts to expand implementation across the state. And this is kind of going back to what Kerry had just mentioned around mental health supports. One thing that has become more and more apparent in recent years prior to the pandemic is the increasing level of mental health challenges and anxiety among our youth. If you look at some of the healthy youth surveys across the state, had been a growing problem prior to the pandemic. And as I'm sure folks on this call today can probably speak from firsthand experience, the pandemic has caused a lot of stresses, anxieties, and mental health challenges in adults too. So acknowledging that reality and the landscape that we're now in, if we're going to try to overcome the learning loss that has been experienced and the disruption to the learning environment as well that students have experienced, we're going to have to support them in their mental health needs and social and emotional growth areas so they can be in a position to re-engage in the learning process and make up that make some academic progress that was slowed down or halted during this current crisis. Another focus area is going to be around the Learning Assistance Program. It's often referred to as the LAP program or LAP. And our focus on this is building in more flexibility in how districts can use the funds. Right now, there's a limit on how much of those funds can be used by districts to develop partnerships with CBOs or community-based organizations to better and more effectively meet the needs of students to support them academic and social emotionally to get back on track in their learning trajectory. So we want to provide more flexibility to allow greater ability for districts to really form these effective partnerships with local organizations to meet student needs. And our final area of focus in this priority area is around transitioning from punitive measures to more supportive measures of for students as they are in K-12 settings. So disproportionality in discipline and other punitive approaches in the K-12 setting disproportionately impact students of color, especially including the presence and use of SROs or school resource officers in school buildings. So this is around in the K-2 setting, creating more supportive measures such as positive behavioral interventions, restorative practices to keep students in the school building and engaged in schools. And then this kind of just ties into creating safe and supportive learning environments for all students. And the more we do that, the less need or reason there would be for punitive approaches to be employed. And our next area of focus is around resourcing and funding of schools. So establishing equitable resourcing structures centered on student needs. Right now, a lot of our ways in which we fund schools is not necessarily on student need, it's on other factors such as broad student enrollment or the property value of certain districts. That's one of the most significant factors in how schools are funded right now. So we just want to make sure that schools and students are resourced to meet their both academic and non-academic needs. As this pandemic has exacerbated existing inequities and the disparate ways different students have fared and been served by the system, we want to make sure that schools are supported so they could provide those additional supports and resources to students to get us through this current crisis and overcome and grow academically. Because although the COVID has had its specific impacts on schools, on students, on communities, there's also been historical impacts on these same student groups and communities over time. So we have to look at the historical context as well as how COVID has impacted that as we look to respond and support students in schools in this as we hopefully enter the final stages of this pandemic. Another area of focus is around local efforts assistance. This is a lesser known area of funding. This is kind of an add-on to local levies. So districts who have a harder time raising local levies, districts on average with lower average property values in richer districts are eligible for local effort assistance. And right now it's purely based on property values, but we would like it to see, not obviously property values impact local effort assistance, but it's important that student needs is also factored into it. The amount of students living in poverty, the amount of students experiencing getting this proficiency, highly mobile student populations, all of these student groups require additional resources and supports to provide them with the academic experience that they need. So these student need factors should be taken into account in all our funding streams, including our local funding streams. So local effort assistance would be included in that. And our third priority area within resourcing is around establishing new revenue sources to advance educational equity. There is a lot of improvements that the K-12 system needs, and one of those, and some of that can be done with funding. So we want to make sure schools are resourced to provide the mental health supports, the MTSS interventions, and other supports for students and teachers to create the educational experience that students deserve and that we need to provide for students. But we also have acknowledged that things that happen outside the K-12 system impact what happens and how education is experienced by students. So food insecurity, housing insecurity also impact the K-12 experience of students. So in order to provide the system of supports in and outside the school for students to succeed, we need to keep a lot of programs whole outside the K-12 space. So, and to arrive at that, based on history, we feel that there needs to be a new revenue source that is created in order to sustain the well-being of our communities. And our final priority area is around the sufficient and effective resources for students receiving special education services. And this is an area that has thankfully gotten greater attention in the last several years. And one of our focus areas is around supporting the continued use to expand the adoption of inclusive practices for schools and districts. There's been work going on in the last couple of years around the inclusive practices pilot project and other approaches to thoughtfully and effectively implement more inclusive approaches to education. Washington State has one of the highest rates of excluding students with disabilities from a general education setting. So we're trying to create the supports, technical assistance and structures for districts so they can be better positioned and more empowered to provide a better educational experience for students with disabilities. So this is trying to kind of build out that technical assistance and increase adoption for districts. And our final area is around funding for special education. Right now, we don't provide enough resourcing for students with disabilities receiving special education services. And this has been borne out by OSPI studies on how much schools use other funding sources to kind of backfill what they need for special education services. So we need to resource districts in an adequate way to provide these services to make sure the students on IEPs get the resources and supports that they need to access their education. But another area is around what's often referred to as the special education cap. It's a 13.5% cap. So for those folks who are not familiar with this, effectively it means that if you have 100 students in a district and 15% of them or 15 students are receiving special education services, a district will only generate funding for 13.5% of those students. So 13.5 of those 15 students will generate funding from the state, but that 1.5 student that is over that threshold will not get any funding from the state. They'll still get services from the district, they'll still have an IEP, and the district will still need to fulfill their obligation to that student, but the district will not get any additional funding to provide the services and supports. We find it's a punitive approach to trying to address costs of the system. So we want to make sure that the system that we have in place to support and fund students with disabilities covers the full cost of districts, so we don't see inequities in districts' ability to better serve and support students with disabilities. And those are our priorities for this upcoming 2021 legislative session. And I'll send it back to Arik.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jacob. Thanks so much, Carey. That's great perspective. If you want to see our legislative priorities, you can see them on our website, educationvoters.org. All right, we have about 10 minutes for questions. If you have a question, feel free to type it in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. No question is too basic. And we're going to start off with a question for Carey on the structure of the legislature moving forward in this session. And the question is, Carey, can you clarify what you mean by the House's limit of 7 on the number of bills to be brought forward?
Yeah, so other states have been doing this for a while on just in their general legislative sessions, but Washington State has never put a limit on the amount of bills that legislators can sponsor. While the Senate hasn't done that, hasn't given it a number to really, for members to really think hard before introducing too many bills, but the House has said limited it to 7. And those bills have to fit into the categories of equity, COVID response, and some of the climate change work they've done. And to be honest, it's been a little discouraging just putting the word equity onto some of the pieces of legislation doesn't make them focus on equity. But these are going to have to be really hard conversations with more people involved. And so I think what they're hoping is that as each piece of legislation comes through, we're looking through that equity lens, and the right people are giving their experiences and their stories, and they're at the table. I mean, let's be honest, look who's in the panel right now. We all have our heart in the right place, but we don't have the experience or the knowledge in a lot of these. So the hope is every piece of legislation, the stakeholdering is above and beyond what the normal has been.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And yes, I do want to acknowledge that we do not have community members from Black, Indigenous, and people of color on this panel. And moving forward in future legislative preview webinars like this, I will be intentional about including that. So thank you for the person who mentioned that. My next questions are about early learning. The first one is, does high quality early childhood education include infants and toddlers and providing families access to high quality infant and toddler care?
We believe it does. There across the system of early learning, from birth to pre-K, or to however you want to define it. I think it's important to maintain our current level of funding and eventually hopefully expand. It's a tight fiscal environment right now, so the expansions can be difficult in this current climate we're in. But it's something that we do support, and we do think is part of a well-funded and robust early learning system that we do need as a state.
Great, thank you. And another question that's in the similar vein of early childhood education. For early learning, are you focused on ECAP, or the state's Early Childhood Education and Assistance Program, and childcare?
We are engaging in both areas. We, as I kind of mentioned in the previous answer, we want to make sure both are supported. It's important that we not only have access, but the childcare providers are provided with a wage that is reflective of their value that they provide to the community, and they are supported in getting the supports and training they need to provide the care. I think we have a long way to go, but I think we've made some good progress in recent years, and we hope that is maintained and built upon this year and going forward as well.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, there's a question that is, can we contact you later with questions? And the answer is yes, you can definitely contact us later with questions. You can reach us either at info@educationvoters.org, or you can email me directly, Arik, A-R-I-K, @educationvoters.org, and we will definitely answer any questions you might have. The next question is about student supports. There was recently a report that talked about the ratio of nurses to students, which reflected a deplorable situation. Any efforts on the part of LEV to champion the push for increased funding for the expansion of nursing staff as well as counselors?
That's a very good point. I didn't really explicitly tackle this issue in my description of our priorities, but our first bullet point in the resourcing area is kind of getting at getting at this. We have to support and staff schools in a way that really supports students and all their needs, from mental health supports to academic supports, counseling, career counseling, and other forms of counseling, nurses as well, school psychologists. All these are integral and essential in a healthy and well-supported school. So we do definitely support better staffing and support for schools, especially higher need schools that need additional supports and resources to support their students.
Mhm. Great, thank you. This is a question about a bill that has been proposed, and Kerry, you would likely have information on this. The question is, do you think Senator Mullet's proposed bill on getting kids back to school will be seriously considered or passed? And I'll add that Lev has been an ally of Senator Mullet. We appreciate the work that he's done over the years.
Yeah, the getting when and how our students get back into the classrooms is fairly complex. We are a local control state. Our districts have the final say on this. I think there will be a lot of conversations on this issue about what is the formula that is safe and when and at what ages we start putting kids back into the classroom. So will it pass? I do not. I never kind of I don't have that crystal ball, but I do know that this is going to be a topic of conversation.
Great, thank you.
As it should be, as we do that balance between what's best for the students and their health. And it goes back to the nurses issue as well. It's hard to send them back in a pandemic when we don't have nurses in all the schools, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right, the next question is about unfunded mandates. School districts are often faced with unfunded mandates, which disrupt the focus and often reduce funding for other needed programs and supports. Will League of Education voters address unfunded mandates for school districts?
That's a good question and a challenge that many districts have faced. I think that's, as we look to, as policy is proposed and it goes through the process, I think it's critical to see how it's going to be, whether it's funded and supported. I think historically, and especially in recent years, we've asked a lot of districts and of schools and put on new requirements or new expectations of existing staff without additional resources, without the training, without the support. And you can't really do that and make that ask of districts and schools and expect that policy to succeed in the way people envision it to. There's a lot of need out there and there's a lot of additional support and resourcing that schools need. But that's not going to happen unless a policy is actually supported financially in a way that could actually make it succeed. I think we have to be very thoughtful and intentional about how we spend resources, but we also have to be very intentional and thoughtful about our legislation that gets passed and its realistic impact if it's not funded and resourced. Districts can't be expected to pull a rabbit out of a hat. They have to be put in a position to succeed, and I think oftentimes with some policies they are not. And that's something that we definitely do keep an eye on and definitely do advocate for to make sure that new policies are resourced in an effective and adequate way.
Great, thank you very much. So this is a question about revenue. A new source of funding has been mentioned. What and where exactly is that funding coming from?
The revenue question, it's always, there's quite a few options. It's the back, we always hear there's the carbon tax, we hear that when we hear the capital gains, there's some on insurance. I mean, I am not a fiscal person in the sense that I understand our taxing system and all the ways and all the loopholes and where we need to close. I know that we have a really regressive system that needs to be looked at and ways to do that. So that I push on to those people in the Office of Financial Management who oversee our tax structure and our revenue sources over in the governor's policy shop, and they work with the legislators to see what's a doable what we can get done. But there are quite a few floating out there, and they have been for several years, the same ones. So it comes down to where the votes are on what issues, and you will see that there are some legislators who are really firm on, I don't want to do anything unless we're going to do everything. Let's take it all apart and rebuild it so it's a fair system. There are some that are looking at pretty narrow what they would vote for. So I think that our legislative leadership in the House and Senate need to look at the proposals and look at where their members are and what they might have votes for to pass something through.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks so much, Carey. I appreciate that.
It's
Okay,
a hard one.
it is. It definitely is. All right, we have time for about one more question. And this is also related to revenue. Since there is likely to be no budget cuts, how confident are you of pushing your agenda moving forward this year?
Yeah, I don't even know if I would tie that to revenue. I think that's more of just the, how is this session going to work? How much is going to get done when, you know, we have a shorter amount of time to actually have committee hearings. It's going to take longer to get just kind of the logistics through. I think if we all come out of this whole, that's great. If we can build on it, I think we'll see some growth in the childcare area and early learning. I think we'll see some growth really looking at the social emotional needs of our students, but I don't think it's a revenue, it's more of just this virtual world and what they can get done.
Great.
Yeah,
Jacob?
nothing is ever easy legislatively. It's always harder than you expect. But I think there will be some tough decisions made because however much we may or may not be in the hole, there is a lot more need than we do have resources right now. So there is going to be a lot of tough decisions to make with the healthcare crisis, with the housing crisis, with a lot of the economic pain a lot of folks are feeling right now. There's a lot of need out there. So there's a lot of competing priorities in addition to K-12 education. So the legislature does have some difficult choices to make, so it's not going to be easy. There's not going to be any easy wins, however big or small. But we're not in as difficult of a position as many other states are, thankfully. But the challenge is still there.
I know we're running, but I think we will see a bill though of an education on our funding formulas. It's based on enrollment. And I think as we're seeing some data from the early learning system that 40% of the kids might not be coming back for a while. If we see something similar, we want to make sure that our schools are held harmless. They're not going to be losing funding during this time. And that's really, you know, it's that I think had been a fear both in the transportation, but also in our core services. So I think we'll see a bill on that this year.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you so much, Carey Morris and Jacob Vela. And thanks to all of you for participating and submitting questions. Again, if you have questions that weren't answered, feel free to email us info@educationvoters.org. Our next LEVinar will take place Thursday, January 21st. We're partnering with One America to spotlight their new report, Our Rising Voices, a call to action to support multilingual students. The registration link will be on our website, educationvoters.org. Just click on events, then lunchtime LEVinars. I'll also share the LEVinar information in the follow-up email that will arrive in your inbox in about 24 hours. Thank you to each of you for joining us today. If you have additional questions or comments, please send them to me at Arik, A-R-I-K, @educationvoters.org. A recording of today's presentation will be available on our website, educationvoters.org, and will be sent to you in the follow-up email. Please feel free to share the recording with your friends and colleagues. If you'd like to learn more about League of Education Voters or support our work, please visit our website, educationvoters.org. Thank you again for attending. Each one of us has the right to feel safe and valued. Together, we'll fight for a world in which true educational and economic equity exists. We look forward to seeing you in future LEVinars. Jacob and Carey, thank you again for joining us and sharing your information and perspective. We really, really appreciate it.